I'm trained in neuroscience, so I like to talk a little bit about the brain itself. Now, in our brain itself, there's this part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. Right? That is the part that is responsible for decisions making, rational thinking, judgment, and so on. Now, there's another part which is called the amygdala, which is an emotional brain. Emotional brain. It's very volatile and all that, right? Emotional brain and so on. So, just to keep things simple, let's say if you are sleep deprived just for one night itself, science is telling us that your CEO brain, the prefrontal cortex, can actually underperform by 30%, because sleep is a time when you really recalibrate your prefrontal cortex, the CEO brain. And at the same time, your emotional brain, which is the amygdala, can actually be agitated by up to another 60%. So imagine, today leaders we talk about being emotionally intelligent, we talk about making good decisions and all that. But if you're constantly sleep deprived,
and I think first and foremost, thanks our Wisdom Woods for helping us to set up.
Really
today.
grateful.
My guest today, Dr. Tan, you have been very grateful that our mutual friend, Dr. Lau, recommended you to me. That time is that you mentioned about you want to have an opportunity to share some of your coaching, some of your health-related book in the 10 Book Club. And that is what, after stumbled upon you, I'm so grateful that this has been like one thing that we said that we wanted to do, especially before the book club sharing that we're going to do next.
Coming up,
this month as well.
That's right,
So you have been spending years in the corporate world as a C-suite banking executive, and then you make a pivot, I think your own business, you work on that, and also you have been exploring much more about coaching in specific. Sure. And here I wrote down that you've been a certified sleep science coach, a licensed brain health trainer under Dr. Daniel Amen, and also you hold a double certification in health coaching. And today you also run your own CW Coaching International, where you work with executives and leaders on sleep, recovery, and performance. And I also got to know you're also the author of your own book called Leading with Rest, The Science of Sleep and Executive Performance.
That's right,
Yeah, Dr. Tan, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is very casual. Let's just go with it. Right. Before we get into anything, Doctor, would you give a quick story about yourself from banking executive, or say that for me, I felt that sometimes very stressful, sometimes very demanding, to now a health coach. What happened?
In what sense, as in?
How's your journey look like? And how would it pivot you from very demanding corporate life to a health coach?
Actually, I was having, I would say, a very promising career in banking. But then there's a calling from my family, because I'm very close to my family. So when my father asked me, hey, would you like to join me and all that, to eventually take over the family business. And we run a family business in the apparel and related industry. So, when I was pretty young, I have left the family. I went overseas for quite a number of years, and I've always felt very connected to my family. So eventually, after I began my career, after some years, I decided it's probably time, because as my father is getting older, so I decided to join the family, and took a very different path in my career. So that was it. And along the line, of course, we are in conventional business, apparels and some light manufacturing and so on. After that, I also founded, I've been always interested in health and wellness.
Okay.
So I founded a sustainable and organic underclothing brand. I believe is one of our supporters. One of the first in Southeast Asia in terms of having organic undergarments, especially in men's. So I was really surprised. Not surprised, I was really delighted to know you're actually a big fan of the brand and all that. So that's how I got started. We have a mission. I always believe very strongly in sustainability, right? As in using the power of the brand to really engage people, to help the world, to make an impact. And that's how I started this brand. So that comes along. And just right before the COVID-19, I also started a superfood brand. We call it Nature's Gem. We are into predominantly plant-based omega-3 oil and stuff. So those days, I believe very strongly in not just giving a product, but we have to educate the customers, right, to give them the right knowledge and so. So I decided to work with some dietitians, clinical dietitians and all that, just to give the right information to people, right? So at that time I was thinking, hey, why should I always rely on the dietitians to give the education? Why don't I also DIY myself, right? So I'm very interested to learn and I'm really passionate about it. That's why I started to get into the health coaching certifications. I went to brain health one after another, sleep science and all that. And that's where you are. Right? So along the journey, I realized that there's a lot of information. At the same time, there's a lot of misinformation in the health and wellness industries. Right? Particularly when I see, I'll give you an example, like, my mom is on statins, which is drug for, to manage your cholesterol and all that. But after doing a lot of research, I realized it really doesn't serve the cause, right? There's a lot of myth about cholesterol. For example, people think cholesterol is bad, whereas research is saying that for people who are aging gracefully, actually the cholesterol level is higher than the normal people because it's an essential molecules. And why are we then, the doctors are actually prescribing them just because they are worried about the cardiovascular health and all that. The research is very superficial, right? And the science has actually advanced so much, way beyond that. You really have to look at the quality of the, let's say the LDL, which is, people call it bad cholesterol and all that. Just to give you an example, meaning. And I realized statin doesn't even address that issue, right? It's no doubt it's a very big industry. If you look at the overall spending on statins and all that, it's huge industry. It's very profitable to the pharmaceutical industry. And I feel very compelled to share the message to the world, right? That we need to educate people properly, give them the right information so that they are empowered to make the right choice for themselves, especially when it comes to health and wellness. It's something so crucial and so essential. That's how I get into health coaching, and the moment I embark on this, I think there's no stopping. I just feel the desire to get to know more and really to equip myself so that I can serve the community better. So that's where I am right now.
So, and that's good point, bringing out to the executive sleep and recovery specialist. If you tell me maybe a few months ago when we met, I would not know. Right. So what does that mean and who do you help?
Firstly, why I get into this sleep science, because I struggle with sleep. Initially, I even had the gut to try sleeping pills before and all that. I know it's
melatonin,
bad.
Is it?
It's not melatonin. It's really Valium. If you know Valium, it's a kind of it's actually a drug, right? Induce you to sleep. And melatonin is actually if you like, it's actually a hormone. It's a sleep onset hormone itself. It's actually not a drug. But I try drugs and all that because my previous life, my jobs and all that is very stressful, right? And I get into these issues. I couldn't sleep properly and all that. So, but I realized it doesn't really help. So that's why I've been very interested in sleep science and all that. And the last few years, I really look at it, and I realized that sleep is so important. Right? Many people, I think that sleep is actually a downtime. Right? So people in the corporate world, people talk about, I only sleep when I die. Right? So it seems to be a badge of honor, right? Hustling and all that. People think that it's almost a stigma if you sleep. Let's say I go and sleep 7 hours and I'm so proud of it. But the science is telling us otherwise. Really, it's very overwhelmingly convincing that sleep is so pivotal to our health. Right? No part of the body does not benefit from restorative sleep, and especially in the context of executive itself. If you look at it, I think brain health. Today's leadership is very different. Let's talk about leadership a little bit, right? I think gone are the days where, the industrial age mindset is no longer relevant. Right? People always think that in the industrial age you are measured by the output, right? The quantity of, let's say, tasks that you complete, the amount of decisions that you make, the quantity of decisions and all. But those are no longer that important. But what is more important is the quality of decisions. Right? You want to make sometimes just a small number of decisions, and that itself matters a lot when you have large amount of decisions and all that, right? And turn out to be unproductive and all. Sleep is crucial, not just physically, but more importantly, cognitively. Right? If you can allow me to talk a little bit about the different parts of the brain. Right? Now, if you look at the brain, because I'm trained in neuroscience, so I like to talk a little bit about the brain itself. Now, in our brain itself, there's this part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. Right? That is the part that is responsible for decisions making, rational thinking, judgment, and so on. Now, there's another part which is called the amygdala, which is the emotional brain. Emotional brain. It's very volatile and all that, right? Emotional brain and so on. So, just to keep things simple, let's say if you are sleep deprived just for one night itself, science is telling us that your CEO brain, right, the prefrontal cortex, can actually underperform by 30%. Because sleep is a time when you really recalibrate your prefrontal cortex, the CEO brain. And at the same time, your emotional brain, which is the amygdala, can actually be agitated by up to another 60%. So imagine, today leaders we talk about being emotionally intelligent. We talk about making good decisions and all that. But if you're constantly sleep deprived, you just think about it. Let's say if you have a car that is going downhill, right, and the brake, in this case, which is your prefrontal cortex, is underperforming by 30%. At the same time, you're actually pressing the pedal by another 60%. You're accelerating in that sense. So imagine what kind of potential issues can happen. Right? It could potentially be a disaster in the making. That's why your decisions making is compromised, your emotional intelligence is severely impaired, and things like that, just by not having enough sleep itself. And I give you more example as well. When it comes to innovations, when it comes to problem solvings, and so on and so forth, and all that. So sleep is so crucial, right? And I think nobody would judge the CEO or leader by the number of emails that he or she reply a day. But you will judge a person by the quality of the decisions that they make, especially when it matters the most. And sleep is foundational to all of that. Yeah.
So I don't just go in a bit here, right? Some of the leaders that I know of, and they mentioned especially in MMC, having late night meetings because of US time zone, India time zone, Europe time zone. So these are multiple time zones stacked together.
Yeah.
They mentioned that it is part of our responsibility to juggle between the odd hours. So my question is not that it's good or not, but how could a person juggle the odd hours, say that you go to a meeting at 11 p.m. and then next morning at 6 you probably need to go again. How can I operate in this manner?
I think I understand the demand in the corporate world and all this. That's why this is really a structural issues and also a leadership issue itself. Right? The top management has to understand this, right? And make things easier for the executive to really work in this way. Right? They have to. Occasionally, I think it's okay, but if this is a culture that is prevailing throughout, I think that is eventually you may get some productive hours and all that, but you will compromise, in the longer run, in that sense. But I would still, if I were in that position, Billy, I would still stick to a good sleep hygiene, right? Sleep practice and all. Even though occasionally I may have to, let's say, sleep a bit later, but I'll still go through my normal sleep routines, and wind down routine, and I still wake up at the same time, and I make sure I have enough to go through. And more importantly, I think it's the realization at the top level that you really have to take care of your executive, right? Burnout is a real risk in organizations today. I can understand occasionally there are things like that because of timing issues and all that, but this cannot be something, personally I believe that this cannot be something that is on a prolonged or protracted basis. Executive recovery is essential in that regards. Yeah.
You mentioned about sleep hygiene. What are the components in the sleep hygiene that those executives or myself need to be aware of?
There's a lot of research in that regards, but one of the most crucial things, I will give you one or two most crucial things is to stick to a consistent sleep and wake up time, because the body like to have a rhythm. Right? When I say consistent sleep and wake up time, let's say if you sleep, let's say usually it's 11 o'clock, you try to sleep not more than 30 minutes
Plus minus.
plus or minus. Let's say 11. Let's say 10:30 you go to bed, or 11:30. And then the next morning, let's say your wake up time is 6:30. Right? You try to do that also within the 30 minutes difference. And that applies also even during the weekend itself.
Okay.
There's issue that I see a lot of executives, they hustle throughout the week and then they catch up.
Yeah.
This is what we call social jet lag, social jet lag. Right? The brain just doesn't work in this way.
Okay.
Right? Now, if you cannot sleep at the same time, at least you wake up at the same time. Example that you gave, let's say at 11 o'clock you have a call, right? A conference call and with your fellow colleagues in different parts of the world. You can't sleep at the same time, but even with that, you try to wake up at the same time.
Okay.
Waking up itself is actually relatively even more important than sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People sometimes, if you know that you have to wake up, let's say 6:30, and now it's 11:30 or 12, you better go to sleep. Ironically, it forces people to also go back to sleep earlier. So that is one point, Billy. The other important thing that I would suggest you to do.
When you say, example, if I set my waking time to be 6 a.m., I should not wake up at 5. I should not wake up at 7. I should be 6.
You try, because you want to get, see, there are two aspects. One is quality and the other one is quantity as well. Both are equally important, right? Both are equally important. So I would suggest a half an hour kind of.
So the 6, example, even I sleep at 1, I will wake up at 6. This is for quality. Am I right?
Yeah. If it would be more for the quantity, but more importantly, it's about having a pattern, having a consistency.
Okay.
Because if you sleep late, let's say the night before, you don't want this to perpetuate. Right? You want to protect your next night's sleep. That's why you wake up at 6 o'clock at the same time also. Right? And after that, try to get some sunlight in the morning. Right? Let's say if you can, 10 to 15 minutes is the best. If you can't, then at least 5 to 10 minutes. The reason I say this is because each of us has got a bio clock. Right? It's called a circadian rhythm, a bio clock. Right? So when you wake up in the morning, you're exposed to the sunlight for, let's say, 10 minutes or so. It's going to switch on our bio clock itself. We call it realigning your whole circadian rhythm, so that it would know the moment you're exposed to the sunlight, it will send a signal to your brain to stop the production of melatonin. Right? Melatonin is for sleep, right? At the same time, it would increase the release of cortisol. Right? Cortisol is actually, if you like, it's a stress hormone, but it also helps you to wake up. Okay. It gives you more energy and so on. So you really realign the whole clock itself. And ironically, by doing that, it actually helps you to sleep better also. Because there's a 14 hours cycle, right? The moment when you reach evening, nighttime and all that, the body knows that because you have reset the circadian rhythm, body knows that it's time to start release the melatonin that helps you to.
So the second component is the exposing the sunlight for the sleep hygiene, am I right? And how long would that be?
10 minutes if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 minutes if you can. Yeah, but it's not just the second component. I'm sharing with you some of the important things that you do, but many other things as well. Let's say, how do you time your alcohol intake? Coffee intake. Okay. Right. Some people like to drink a little bit. How do you adjust that? What do you do throughout the day, and things like that. This is actually a rather big component, but I'm just sharing with you what I believe, or what the science is telling us. 2 of the most important practices that you can apply. Right.
The first one would be sleeping rhythm. I say that when to sleep, when to wake up.
Yeah.
If worst case, if you can catch up both duration, the quantity, and also to catch up on the quality, which is good. Right. If not, at least we hit the quality, which is same time wake up lah. I think that is something that
at the same time, even during the weekend itself.
Even
during
self-reminder, even.
Because people like to sleep long over the weekend, right? But that doesn't work. The mind, or rather the brain, wants to have a rhythm. So if you sleep long in the weekend, it confuses the brain. Right? That is going to ultimately affect both the quality and the quantity of your sleep itself.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Change a bit of perspective when we talk about coaching. Let's move into coaching. There's 2 important components, as we know. One is the coach, one is the coachee or the clients.
Sure.
Right. What do you think? Rather than asking you what the coach need to be, I say what a client need to be in order to be coachable. Yeah.
I think this is, to me, coaching is really about a behavioral change process, right? And if you look at the coaching journey itself, people don't change just like from point A to point B, just like this. You go through stages, we call it stages of change itself, right? From the point of pre-contemplation, which is resistance to change, to eventually having some thoughts about change, and then to preparations, ready to change, and to actual implementation itself, and finally to the, the maintenance process and so on. So the first thing is really the desire to change. Desire to change is willingness to explore the motivation for change. I would call that as as the first step to change itself. But obviously, as you said, Billy, the client has to be coachable as well, right? In order to engage in a meeting. Not everybody is coachable, or not everybody is ready to be coached also. So that's where like we have techniques as a coach, right? If somebody who's at the resistance stage, for example, I'm not sure if this is what you intend to explore a little bit more.
I think much more like a client. If I am a client, how can I be a good client that can really changes my life, right? Let's not go into a challenge client yet, but what a client the willing client can do to further improve the odds of the success.
It's actually a partnership. Coaching is a collaboration between the coach and the coachee itself. And oftentimes, it's the client needs to know what is the health goal, right? I'm talking in the sense of the health coaching perspective. What exactly you want to work on. So it's actually client-directed. Client is empowered. You make the decisions. The coach is there to facilitate the process, to collaborate with the client, to journey with the client, to take the person from where they are to where they want to be. So that is it's actually a partnership, a collaboration process itself. So the fact that the client is, like the example you mentioned, the client is really willing, is open to change, and having that thought itself, I think, to me, is 50% of the battle won.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the intention of the client, the mindset come in to change is already what's important.
See, in the example that you say, you look at the stages of change model itself, right? And the client is really thinking in the mode that you suggest, meaning to say that the client is willing and ready to change, right? So that is, if you look at the cycle itself or the stages itself, that's already third stage itself.
Okay.
They're willing to change.
Desire. Okay.
Yeah. It's really preparation. So a coach is to facilitate that change process smoothly, is to enable and empower, is to motivate the client further, and to have the issue of accountability, example, right? They mentioned how do we get the best and all this, right? So you have somebody who is there, accountable. Let's say we check in on a weekly basis, then I'll make you accountable, right? And then you report back, then we do again. And bear in mind, Billy, change is not a linear, right? A process. It goes through like up and down, up and down. So therefore, having somebody who is there to journey with you, to make you accountable, to a space for you to share and all these things, that itself is very, very useful, right? In my perspective, in my view.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Means that the partnership, the willing, and also like working together to improve the life of the coachee, lah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Without naming names, would you share like most challenging clients, coachee, that you have, and how you overcome that?
It's about again, I would allude to the stages of change itself. Right? Stages of change. Usually the most difficult is people, they are not ready to change yet. What technically we call this a pre-contemplation stage. Right? Example, people who know that, they have blood sugar issues. For example, and I say, I'm ready on insulin and all that. Say, okay, then the guy would say, look, I'm okay, I'm on insulin, I've been on this for, 5 years, 10 years, no issue. I can live my life as normal and all those things, right? So that is the most difficult stage, if you like, the most challenging things. So as a coach, how do I overcome that? I think most of the coaches, or I won't say most of coaches, many coaches, you have this tendency of having this writing reflex. Writing reflex, meaning to say that I try to, let's say you say, oh, I'm okay, and I say, no, you look at this, right? The issue with diabetes, it's going to lead to complication, it's going to lead to heart disease, kidney disease, and all this stuff. People will have the tendency to actually write, it's called a writing reflex and all that. And that would be met with a lot of resistance. I think that is one of the issues. Like I said, people don't change just like that. Like as a coach, if I'm encountered with such a situations, my role is actually, what I will do is I will roll with resistance. What I mean by roll with resistance, I would be very curious. Right? Instead of trying to share more knowledge, share more information about the issues and all that. I think the coachee probably knows, right? There's no need for you to share more information, but it's to put yourself in the coachee perspective and try to practice empathy with the coachee. Let's say if I put myself, as a coach, I'm trained to be very curious. Curiosity is, if you like, a very important quality of a coach. So I'll be very curious. Why did you say, I'll ask questions like, hey, why do you believe that? What makes you believe that, you can do this, you can stay forever, you can still continue to do things that you want, no issue with insulin, injections for forever and all that. I will start to try to understand the reasons why the coachee think in this way, and I want the coachee to be together with me. That means I want to build a rapport, I want to build the trust with the coachee, that the coachee believes that I'm with the person. Instead of me trying to confront you, that is not going to take us anywhere. But in the process of doing this, as a coach, I would try to find motivations for the coachee to give themselves a reason why they want to change. If you know what I'm trying to say. In other words, my objective is just to create an opportunity for them to reflect by asking some powerful questions, right, that invite them to think about the issues. Perhaps this is in conflict with my values or my goal in life. For example, the person is struggling with diabetes, having insulins and injections and all that. And I would ask questions. What are important things? What are some of the important things for you? What do you really enjoy doing next, let's say 5-10 years and all that. Then I'll probably then ask the questions that just to trigger the person to think a little bit further. Is my action of continue to take injection, not being responsible for my diet, not doing the stuff that I know I supposedly be doing and all that, does that conflict with the values or goals of my life? If I can just invoke the change thought itself, to me, it's a better one. Again, I take you back really to the stages of change itself. The first is pre-contemplations. The person has no intention to change at all. But if I can take the coachee from pre-contemplation to, let's say, contemplation stage. Contemplation stage doesn't mean that he's ready to change. But at least I create some doubt. I challenge him to think a little bit more, right? Like I said, is my action really conflict with the values or goals in my life, right? That is, to me, if I can invoke the change thought, not that I'm giving you a motivations to change, but I'm inviting you to think about a reason why you should change. If I can just do that, to me, it's mission accomplished. So that's how I will do it. And you know that this is actually very challenging things to do.
Yeah.
Very challenging, but as a coach, if I can do that, I'll be very happy. Right? It doesn't happen overnight.
Okay. Mean that you know that I have family members that I have that, and sometimes looking as a third party, this is probably another advice is that I also felt, like I said, me, you, everyone knows what is the problem and what are the challenges. And we just don't really want to change, right? Especially some older people say that, I've been eating like this for my whole life. I really remember my late uncle, just a bit, let's say, my late uncle was really like to smoke. And they say, oh, Deng Xiaoping also smoked until don't know like how many years old.
Very normal.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
it means it become habit
Yeah.
already, like food, our what they do, right? What can a coach do help?
First thing first, I think if you're a family members and all that, it's very difficult for you to do that, right? Because in a coaching context, unless both parties, usually the coach can, but I think the coachee, you have to, in a coaching conversation, you have to take it out, whatever relationship you have, and put yourself into a neutral positions, right? Now, if as a coach you are trained to do that professionally, but the coachee may or may not, most likely not, especially somebody who is so close to you. Let's say try coaching your wife or coaching your father and all that. It's the hardest,
Yeah.
right? And problem may not be you, but most likely because, hey, who are you to tell me, Billy, if I'm your dad? Right? In Chinese or in Hokkien, we say, "Jia yang biu, jia bi ga qie." You know what I mean, right? So who are you to coach me and all that? So therefore, having a third party who is impartial, right? Let's say if I'm a coach and I'm, totally neutral to all this, that would help, right? For sure, that would help. And second thing is the point that I was trying to make just now, right? We should not start with the writing reflex, right? Let's say, hey, smoking, I've got this statistics. This person has been, this and that. You're going to face with a lot of resistance. I say, like, if I smoke, I can live so long. The guy doesn't smoke, and after that, he also passed away. So you're going to hear instances like that, and we've seen this all the time, right? It's not unusual at all, right? But the technique, as I suggest, is to step back and stay curious and try to understand. Maybe he doesn't have the skills. Maybe he doesn't have the belief that the person can change. That's another aspect, right? Is to equip, as a coach, is to equip the coachee with what we call a self-efficacy, affirming rather than just rejecting, right? Using that kind of techniques. And also, very importantly, is to help the coachee to find the reason for change, the motivation for change. And that goes deeper into the depth of the conversation itself. We talk about things, anything under the sun, except the subject itself, which is quitting smoking. We will not talk about quitting smoking, right? If I were the coach, the person, I would talk about everything else, life in general, subject that appear, to be totally unrelated and all that. But eventually it leads the person to think about, right, to find a space for themselves to think about why they want to change, the reasons they should consider at least changing all that. These are the skills that we will train as a coach to do that, right?
That's why I think if my dad see this, right, so that's why I asked my dad to have a chat with you.
Sure, I'll be happy
right,
to do that.
Right, but so I think that is also one thing that build trust and sometimes giving the space for that person to express also and create the awareness.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, to affirm rather than reject, I think that's very important.
So Roshan, fit the context about those people who have been eating the same thing, doing the same thing for the rest of their life, right? Perhaps until the rest of their life. So we talk about more into the blood sugar things first.
Sure.
Without taking the food that they love, make it realistic, make it sustainable. How would the person able to achieve that?
Can you be a bit more specific again?
Okay, so without changing old habits are very, very difficult. They have food, especially those that taste bud, is much more strong.
Sure.
What can a person do, or what you have see your clients do that they probably still love the food they love? How can we help them to sustain? How can we help them to be more realistic about maybe still enjoying what they...
Blood sugar issues.
Blood sugar.
Yeah, the first thing is, well, I would go into the substance, right? We go into the substance of the blood sugar issues. Well, as a coach, firstly, what I will approach is, I will ask you what you think you can do, rather than me prescribing, right? Coaching is not about, an expert and, giving the opinions and all that, again, right? So what I will do, I will ask you, what do you think you can do? Let's say you already know that you need to manage your blood sugar level. So what I will do is ask you, Billy, what do you think what are some of the things that you think you can do, right? Instead of me prescribing, right? That's not the way a coach should operate. So maybe you say something and all that. So I will listen with a lot of curiosity, right? You may or may not be saying the right thing, but I will not resist you, right? I will listen and all that. And maybe there are things that I would ask you for permissions. Is it okay if I share a little bit and all that, right? I will ask you with your permission, then I'll start to share some of the things that I can, right? So now I'm sharing with you, really, right? So now, going back to the question that you asked, it's not about giving up the food and all this, right? If you say dieting can be fun, can be very enjoyable as well, right? I have clients who eat normally, enjoy the food and all these things, and yet they are able to manage their blood sugar very, very well, right? The way to do this is have knowledge, right? Again, knowledge is important, and knowledge that is backed by science, empirical studies and all. So the key thing is to stabilize your blood sugar level. You don't want the sugar to go up and down, right? Then you have the sugar spike and sugar crash, sugar spike and sugar crash. And the way to enjoy all the sweet things is to do it in such a way that it stabilizes your sugar level. So practically what you can do, you can start with, let's say, fiber and proteins. Right? Let's say in the normal meal itself, you look at this, we eat so many different things, but you can start with, I always tell people start with fiber, right? Start with fiber, and the reason for fiber is usually those are plant-based things. The reason for fiber is because it helps to stabilize the sugar, right? Sugar is not the enemy, right? We have to understand that sugar is not the enemy, but you don't want to have, we call it simple carbohydrates. That means it's only sugar, nothing else, right? But you want to have complex carbohydrate. That means that the sugar is actually bind with protein, right? Bind with fat and fiber and all those things, in such a way that if you consume that, the release of the sugar is actually slower. In fact, much slower than just a simple carbohydrate. Let's say you eat white rice, it's nothing else. You eat bread, white bread is nothing else, right? The moment you consume, 20 minutes later, it all goes into your bloodstream. So everything is converted into glucose, and that causes a sugar spike, and the insulin level comes out, and all sorts of consequential impact. Right? We don't want that. Right? You want to eat in such a way that you still enjoy it, right? So you go for complex carbohydrates if you have a choice. If you don't have a choice, you start with sequencing. It's a very powerful technique and yet simple, right? You do a sequencing things. Example, you start with fiber, then you go for protein, right, and fat, healthy fat, and eventually you go for your carbohydrates. Let's say even it's a simple carbohydrate, you do that. It's number one. Right? Now by doing this, even you are eating the same amount of food, everything's the same, but your sugar spike actually can be reduced by up to 70%.
Okay.
Right? Eating the same thing, nothing to change. You enjoy whatever you like to eat, but just managing the sequence. Right? That by itself actually improve your sugar spike, or rather reduce your sugar spike significantly. So we share with clients and stuff like that, right? So then you enjoy it, right? You still like your cakes, and you eat your cake towards the end. You don't go for your cake. The first thing that you take is you consume eggs, and that is not the right thing to do. That's going to really spike your sugar, eventually causing insulin resistance and diabetes issues and stuff like that. So there are little tips like that we can do. Yeah.
So the key message is dessert after food is a good plan.
Definitely. You see the if you go for buffet, for example, simple. You go for buffet. The first thing you do is don't just go and take the ice kacang, right? You start with salad, right? That's what we do, right? You start with salad, which is your plant. Yeah.
This is what you do.
Yeah, you start with salad, that you already have the fiber. Fiber is going to slow down, right? And then you eat your proteins, right? Let's say your meat and all. And after that, you do your carbohydrates. Let's say your rice, your pasta, your potatoes and all that. Now, by doing that, you will realize that one thing I see a lot of my clients is this: by changing the sequence of their food, their intake, by the time they are going to eat the pasta and all that, they really feel very full. So that also reduces the portions. Right? So you start with fiber. Fiber gives you a satiety factor. Protein as well, satiety factors and all that. Right? Some healthy fat. Eventually, then you eat your rice, your pasta, your spaghetti. Okay. We don't have so much. And the other thing is the brain takes 20 minutes to realize that you're full.
Okay.
Right? 10 to 20 minutes. So if you do that after, let's say you finish all these things, by the time you come to that, the signal is already sent to the brain. You're already full, right? Compared to, let's say if you start with just carbo, carbo, and you only eat that, the fiber and all this, the proteins, are already so much carbo, that is going to cause a massive spike in your sugar, which is detrimental in the long run.
Just to chip in, we have a chat over lunch maybe 2 months ago.
Sure.
I just follow the sequencing, the fiber, protein, and rice. Even my rice are very small portion. If a scoop is like maybe three spoonsful, something like that. Yeah. And with this, I had reduced 3 kg. I told you, right? 3 kg, so. And it still maintained until this morning.
Are you still doing that?
If I will prime myself to remember at least to do so, and sometimes also the choice of food. Sure. Nearby my house, there's not so much choice, but sometimes it's ban min. Ban min, ban min. The noodles is the biggest portion, sure. Right? But still eat the veggie first, lah. But now rather than going to ban min, also I will go to more into the economy rice, lah.
Sure. So, but I think it's just life is never perfect, right? It's never perfect, right? We talk about this, but in reality, of course, there are instances like that, right? But just to be very mindful, I think the fact that you're already aware of that itself is actually very good, right? The mindfulness itself, we practice mindful eating, and
Okay. Let's just perform a bit. Something that you don't touch on when I talk about health coaching is don't touch on exercise. Okay.
Exercise, yeah.
Sleep and exercise. If you could choose one, which one do you choose and why?
Well, I think both are good, but I think in terms of the ROI itself, as an entrepreneur, I always like to think in terms of the ROI, return on investment. I spend the time, sleep and all that. What do I get? Right? I always think about sleep as the Swiss Army knife of health. Right? If you really go deep dive into the science, you see, like I said, no part of the body does not benefit from sleep. Right? Sleep is the only time. I won't say the only time, is the primarily the time when the body really repair and recalibrate. Our body is so smart, right? Wisdom of the body. The body knows it's the best doctor in the world. Right? Let's say today you are sick, you go and see doctor give you medications, want you to sleep, right? Or rather the body will also send signal to you to force you to sleep. Why? Because that's a time when the body can actually repair, rejuvenate and recalibrate. Right? So physically, no part of the body does not benefit from that. Cognitively, like I mentioned to you just now, the prefrontal cortex recalibrations, the emotional brain, which is the amygdala, yeah? You reduce the emotional volatility. There's another part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is the learning brain. Right? The learning brain consolidates only during sleep. Right? If you want to, as a leader, you want to learn well, you want to have the ability to connect the dots. Right? That only happens during REM sleep. Ability to connect the dots. Right? Steve Jobs talks about, connecting different disparate parts of the information, seemingly, distinct and separate, but we're able to create them and synthesize them together, and therefore new insights are being discovered and all that. That happens during sleep. Also about detoxifications, right? The brain needs to detox, right? Because the brain is 2% of our whole body, but it consumes 20 to 25% of our total energy expenditure, right? So therefore, there's a lot of metabolic waste happening, and you need to discharge, you need to detox. And the only time that the brain detox is during deep sleep itself, right? Where the cerebrospinal fluid, which is the fluid that actually excrete the metabolic waste, right? The tau protein, all those protein waste, right? That only happens during deep sleep. So if you don't sleep enough, you're going to get the brain fog's number one. In the long run, people get into Alzheimer, dementia and all that. That has distinct connection with the sleep quality itself. So that is one thing, right? I would personally prioritize. Also emotionally, right? Sleep, especially during REM sleep, is a time when you really recalibrate your emotions. Sometimes you're very stressed and all that, but a good night's sleep, a big issue the night before, after a proper restorative good night's sleep, the next day it's the same issue, but it's no longer so big, try that. Right? It's a very good stress management tool for you as well. So I would prioritize my sleep. There's no way I'll compromise. But having said that, I think movement is also important. Now you asked the question about having no time to exercise. Right? I think we are all struggling with time as well. We're all busy and all that. But the key thing is not about going to gym, on the treadmill and all these things. But what is more important is to incorporate movement. The key word is movement. To incorporate movement in your life, right? Let's say if you walk, right? Say after your meal, you walk for 10 minutes and all this. Right? Science is showing us that has immense impact, immense impact on the blood sugar regulations, also on your blood pressure regulations, right? Also on your nervous system, right? Switching from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system, just having that 10 minutes walk and all this. And you do, right? And there's another concept called, don't know if you heard about this, NEAT, NEAT, right? Non-exercise, thermogenesis, activity thermogenesis, NEAT. That means you go and do some, even you do grocery, you park your car far away, from the office or the Intel, the car park is quite far away. You walk, right? Instead of sending WhatsApp to your colleague, you go up and see them, talk to them and all that. Just by incorporating all this. For female, do some housework after you finish your meal. Do this kind of things. Incorporate that as part and parcel of your life, right? In fact, really, I study a lot about people in the blue zones. We're going to talk about blue zones next week as well.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at blue zones are areas in the world where people live to 100 years and beyond, so-called centenarians. If you look at the centenarians, they don't go to gym. There's no such concept of going to gym, right? They don't have gyms. But what they do is they walk a lot, right? Because of their lifestyle, because of the environment. They're going from places to places, they walk, right? And that itself is proving to be even more effective. Say if today you have 30 minutes of your time, right? Now, you can spend 30 minutes in the gym, on the treadmill and all that, then you can remain sedentary for the rest of the day. Compared to if you break your 30 minutes into 10 minutes of post-meal walk, let's say after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, you do 10 minutes walk. Right? Science is telling us that the impact of that is a lot more powerful than just 30 minutes of gym sessions and remain sedentary for the rest of your day itself. There's a lot of compelling evidence telling us things like that. So you don't have to take one and sacrifice the other. You ask me to choose. Of course, I'll choose sleep. I like to sleep. But you don't need to sacrifice movement.
Okay.
Right? You don't have to.
So that it means that we don't need to have lift heavy weights. We don't need to run on the treadmills. We just need to incorporate.
It's good to do. I'm not saying you're not do. Right? Just go and do some resistance training, build some muscle is important for longevity. Right? Muscle is important. But you can do. You look at people in blue zones, how they never go to gym, but what they do gardening. Right? You carry buckets of water. You do things like that. Those are also resistance training. Right? But that is incorporated into our daily life in such a way that we don't feel it's a chore. Right? I think you shared with me last time. Right? I asked you about movement. You say, "Oh, okay, I go and do cycling and all that."
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm so busy with kids and my career and all that. I don't have time, right? I don't have time to, cycle and all. But you don't have to. It's good to do, but it's not necessarily the only way for you to do that, right?
After I got my car in the accident now, bicycle is my only mode of transportation.
You can play with your kids, You can play with your kids also. I know you like weekends, you like to play with your kids. Go and play with your kids. Yeah, that's also movement.
But that's also the mental stress also, right? Sometimes.
That's another story.
I think you touched this a bit just now, but sleep and exercise, you say you choose sleep. And then corporate...
Without compromising movement.
Okay, plus with movement.
Yeah.
Then most corporate, I told you just now that they say that we need to attend meetings at 11 or 6, right? It becomes such an honor for them. Actually, what can they do in return to, that to also feel that their colleague don't see that they don't not be responsible, right? What can they do?
Sorry, I quite.
So like for the last time you also in executive in banking, the C-suite executive banking. So if people still want to not attend meeting at 11, attend meeting at 6, 12 midnight. So what can they do so that they still live up to their standards, the expectation of their colleagues?
First thing is, can you not attend? I'm not too sure, whether this is compulsory or not. But is it possible for you to skip the meetings? And
for my case, sometimes it's better for me to be there because decision need to be made.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, occasionally this is really a broader cultural organization, cultural issues and all that, and that is, actually one of the hardest things to do, right? We talk about corporate wellness and all that. It's a culture, right? And changing the culture itself, maybe you at your executive level, you may or may not be able to influence and all that, but usually that is the challenge that we see, right? When we try to institute corporate wellness that has to be a top-down, approach and all that. I don't want to comment on this, PD, but I also share with you some of the best practices, right? If you look at the forward-thinking companies, example, just give you an example. Let's just look at Google, right? Google prioritizes sleep, right? Sleep education is one of the important executive development program that they have, inbuilt in their system. And Google has this very famous sleep pod. You just go and Google and see all this very sophisticated. They encourage the staff to nap, right, after lunch and all this. People, today's world is very different, right? If you say in the industrial world, as I say, people think about output. You're measured by the output, number of hours you clock and all that.
Yes.
Right. But today is a very, very different world, right? The digital world, we look at, we're living in the AI world, all that kind of things. We're no longer measured by the output itself, but measured by the quality, right? You may, be able to squeeze out a few more hours, but that is at the expense of the quality of the decisions that you can make. That is at the expense of a long-term risk of burnout and all that, right? So I'm not in a position to tell you this, but I think eventually, it's, like I said, as a leader, we are measured by the quality of the decisions that we make, not by the number of emails that we answer per day, right? That is industrial age thinking, right? Today's thinking is sleep is my superpower. It's my superpower. I can literally sleep my way to the top. If you know about Ariana Huffington, right? The founder of Huffington Post, she used to think like that, right? They're really sleep deprived, and at one day she fell down and she injured herself, and she realized it's not worth it, right? It's not. Then she really invests in her sleep and all that. Another example, you look at people like the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has a very famous quote. He says, "My job as a CEO is to make a few high-quality decisions, and therefore my job is also to sleep well." So he prioritized 8 hours of sleep, something that he doesn't compromise on. Organization, eventually you look at the productivity, you look at the return, which is going to reflect in the return. You don't want people to come in and show up when not present, right? Okay. That is very different, right? We operate in a drastically different world nowadays. Cognitive strengths, emotional resilience, and stuff like that. Apart from physically, fit and performing, I think as leaders we need all that. But I don't really have the answers to your questions. I think that has to be a top-down culture change and all that. And breaking that mindset is not that easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then before I continue, sometimes we tend to call in sick at work. And one thing I'll ask you is that, based on science, that if I'm sick, should I just stay home and sleep? Means again, and sleep until I recover, or I just follow again the 11 to 6 kind of rhythm?
You need to rest. Yeah.
So if I'm sick, it's better for me to sleep.
Of course, for sure. Yeah.
Despite what time is it?
I will never. See the thing we share about the sleep hygienes and all that kind of things. These are for normal day to day and all
Yeah.
that. Of course, there are issues, right? There are issues like this. The body will force you to sleep. Why?
So must sleep lah. This even that there's a working.
I would never compromise my
I
sleep.
mean sleep. I mean there's in the morning. We sleep in the morning. I mean sleep for the whole day.
If your body needs that, that's the time when your body really heals, and so do that. Really.
Okay. Never mind. Okay. We'll conclude this with a few of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Then we'll conclude this thing. Hypothetically, you imagine that you have a big billboard that you can put anywhere in this world, and it will be seen by millions of people. What will be the one message or one thing that you want to put there? It can be a picture, it can be words, anything that you like. What will be there that you want to put on the signboard?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I want my life to be. I'm a very mission-centric person, so I believe that the reason we are here is to make an impact. Right, so yeah, I would. That's what the message that I would do. Right?
What would be the message of the billboard?
Can't think of one. I'll probably ask ChatGPT to help me to come up with one. Yeah, have an impactful life, probably.
Have an impactful life.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Okay. What is the one best investment that you have made? Not necessarily need to be money. It can be anything else in this world. What is that and why?
Learning and growth. Yeah. That's how, if you look at my own evolution itself, I actually went through a lot of things. I came from, I mean, it's just a passion and also a mission, along with my priority, different stages in my life and all that. At this stage in my life, I really prioritize health and wellness. I came from a legal background. I studied law and I went to banking, finance. Now I'm into sustainability, now into health and wellness and all that. But I think along the line, as I evolve, I continue to learn. I make myself meaningful, and also I make sure I'm able to create an impact to the world. So learning and growth is an essential part of my life. Yeah.
Okay, thanks you.
Yeah.
Okay, this. What is the book or books that you've given out the most to people? Not your own book. What book is that and why?
The book itself.
Yeah, that you've given out most to people.
I don't really do that. But I'm influenced by many books and all that. Because I'm a Buddhist, so I have a lot of influence from the book. But as far as in relations to leadership and all that, I read a book by the Dalai Lama. It tells about leadership, right? What should make a good leader, and I'm guided by that book itself. And that is no different from what I just shared with you. The intention is to benefit people. The intention is to, to help create a better world. Right? That is as a leader, I think that is a responsibility.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that's important that we are not covered and you would like to share?
Oh, I think we have a very interesting conversation. I'll be interested to go and see your father. Yeah, to have a chat and all that. Maybe we can help to solve some headaches for you. And
I'm not sure that he will watch a lot, but he subscribed to my YouTube channel. He accidentally watched it.
But we go with genuine intention. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I know that your dad is helping you to take care of your lovely children and all that. I'm sure he loves you, your family, your kids and all that. I'm sure he wants to live long, right? To see them grow up, right? To have the joy of seeing them, and maybe your mom traveling the world. I don't really know. That's what I mean. This is the probably at this stage in his life, this is the value of the goal that are important to him, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is, if I were to do it, my role as a coach is to help your dad to find that motivations to do that, so that it would help to invoke a change thought in him that he wanted to perhaps consider, taking care of his lifestyle, his diet, right? Instead of relying on insulin, because I know very well for sure insulin doesn't solve the problem. Insulin is a growth, hormone, and that is going to have a lot of problems as he, as he ages, in the coming years and all that. So I think timing is important.
And Totan, thanks for being here. I guess
Yeah,
that
pleasure.
it's again learn new things from you, and looking forward to
Sure.
have more conversation.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you everybody at
And
Wisdom
thanks,
Wood
Mr. Wood, Coach K,
for having this
Coach S.
excellent facility for us to
Yeah.
have a good chat.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that's all you have. Thank you.
Okay.